29 missed calls from a blocked Illinois number arrived before Sophia Bennett even finished her first cup of coffee. For 20 years, she had meticulously built a life in Denver designed to be invisible to that specific area code. She changed her name, her career, and her geography, but these calls proved that the past she had buried was now actively looking for her. The calls lead back to Willow Creek, Illinois, where Sophia's childhood was a masterclass in performative middle-class respectability. Her parents owned a successful chain of home goods stores and projected the image of a solid, hard-working American family to every neighbor on the block. Inside the house, that respectability dissolved into a series of psychological lessons. Her mother used these exercises to humiliate her, turning childhood mistakes into opportunities for cruelty, while her father treated the emotional fallout as a spectator sport. These tests often involved public abandonment. At 8, she was left on a mall bench for 3 hours to learn responsibility for wanting new shoes. At 10, her parents drove to the far side of a stadium lot and left her in the dark because they believed her tears over being bullied were a sign of weakness. The ultimate lesson was triggered by a B+ in an art class. Her parents viewed the grade as a moral failure, a sign that 12-year-old Sophia was becoming lazy and needed a punishment that would finally harden her for the real world. The next morning, they manipulated her with a sudden, rare display of kindness. They made pancakes and announced a surprise day trip into Chicago. Sophia, desperate for a reset, followed them into the city, unaware that the cheerful car ride was the setup for a trap. Inside the Great Hall of Union Station, her mother pointed to a stone pillar and told Sophia to wait there while they moved the car. The station was a massive, echoing transit hub, packed with thousands of strangers moving with a purpose Sophia didn't yet understand. 15 minutes became 2 hours. Sophia stood by the pillar with $9 in her pocket and no phone, terrified that moving or asking for help would violate her parents' rules. She watched the clock, her panic rising as the afternoon crowds began to thin. The climax came when she spotted the family car gliding past the station's front windows. She ran toward the glass, waving, only to see her father smiling and her mother leaning out the window. Her mother yelled that she had bet $50 Sophia couldn't find her way home, and then they drove away. That moment redefined Sophia's understanding of her family. Her terror was the intended outcome of the day, a punchline delivered to 2 parents who viewed their daughter's genuine fear as the payoff for a $50 bet. A transit worker named Maria eventually noticed Sophia's distress. When she asked a simple, human question, if the girl had eaten, Sophia's trained silence finally broke. She told Maria everything, from the laughing parents in the car to the bet they had made on the curb. When the police reached her parents, the couple doubled down, insisting they were merely teaching their daughter a lesson in independence. The authorities saw it differently. Under Illinois law, leaving a child in a major transit hub constitutes child abandonment, regardless of stated educational intent. Sophia was placed in emergency foster care with Mark and Laura Bennett. In their home, she experienced a radical shift in reality, basic kindness. They left the lights on, they listened without mocking, and they provided a version of safety that Sophia had never known existed. The final confrontation took place in family court. Sophia's parents arrived with a lawyer, appearing offended that the state was interfering in their private parenting methods. They focused more on the inconvenience of the hearing than the welfare of their daughter. The judge offered the parents a choice. They could enter a 2-year state-monitored reunification program involving therapy and oversight, or they could voluntarily surrender their parental rights. It was a test of their ego versus their commitment to their child. To avoid the perceived insult of state evaluation, they chose surrender. They legally discarded their daughter in a courtroom, just as they had physically discarded her at the station, effectively enacting a total family eviction to protect their own pride. Healing was a slow, non-linear process. For years, Sophia's body reacted to kindness with hypervigilance, waiting for the hidden lesson to reveal itself. The Bennetts provided the antidote, steady, unconditional support that allowed her nervous system to slowly believe that rest was finally possible. When the adoption was finalized, Jennifer Caldwell legally became Sophia Bennett. This wasn't just a change of paperwork. It was the final severance from a family that viewed her as a pawn in their psychological experiments. She eventually moved to Denver and built a branding agency focused on honest storytelling. Geography and professional success gave her the space to thrive, creating a life so stable and quiet that most days she could almost believe her biological parents no longer existed. The 29 missed calls came from Sophia's estranged sister, Hannah. Hannah had discovered the truth after reading the unvarnished court records from the Union Station incident, records her parents had spent years lying about. Their parents' downfall was triggered by their own hypocrisy. After the mother left a judgmental comment on a social media post about parenting, local neighbors and former employees began sharing the truth about the train station incident and the subsequent custody investigation. The public exposure destroyed their business and their social standing. Willow Creek's polite silence evaporated, replaced by boycotts and social isolation. The couple lost their stores and their home, eventually moving into a subsidized apartment on the edge of town. This outreach was purely transactional. With their finances on and their health failing, they were looking for a caregiver to prevent them from dying alone. They reached out to Sophia only because they had run out of other options. Sophia flew to Chicago to face them one last time. In a sterile hospital room, she found two people who had been stripped of the power they once used to control her. They looked smaller, fragile, and desperate for a reconciliation they hadn't earned. When her father tried to describe their actions as a mistake, Sophia rejected the label. She stated clearly that missing a turn is a mistake. Driving away from your child while laughing at her panic is a deliberate choice they made for their own amusement. She delivered her final boundary by referencing their original bet. She told them she had successfully found her way home. It just wasn't the house they lived in. She walked out of the hospital, leaving the 20-year-old game behind for good. Reclaiming your future often requires walking away from the people who share your blood. Real family doesn't test your survival, they ensure it. Sophia's story proves that while the family you're born into can shape your wounds, they do not have the power to define the life you build for yourself.